It's a game you don't even know you're playing. It's called the status quo. And honestly, it's one of the sneakiest relationship killers out there. A status quo just means the way things are. And in relationships, that usually translates to the way things stay, even when you're not happy with it, especially when you're not happy with it. Because instead of saying what we need, we cross our arms and we think they should just know. Instead of being the partner we'd actually want to be with, we silently grade the other person like we're holding secret auditions for world's best significant other. And then we get mad when they don't pass an exam that they never even knew they were taking. That is why today we're going to talk about the hidden game of the status quo and how to quit playing it before it quietly tanks your relationship. That sounds at all interesting or intriguing? I hope you'll stick around because that's what's on the agenda. The trap of the status quo looks like this. You notice something your partner does or doesn't do that bothers you, and instead of addressing it, you tell yourself, it's fine. It's not really a big deal. But it isn't fine because every time it happens again, you get that little internal eye roll, You sigh or you tell yourself, ugh, they still don't get it. And congratulations, you've just checked into the waiting room of relationships. You're silently waiting for your partner to change without ever even cluing them in that there's a problem. Spoiler, they're not going to magically figure it out. Let me give you a 50-plus version of this. You've been with somebody for quite a while and he still hasn't noticed that when you come home from work, you just really need that 5 minutes of quiet time before diving into conversation. I mean, you're not mad the first time he misses it or the second, but by the 10th, you're practically begging the couch cushion to save you. Or maybe it's the dishwasher. He loads it like the plates are in a rugby match. You reload it when he's not looking, and then you mutter under your breath like you're auditioning for a one-woman play called Why Am I the Only Adult in This House? And what happens? Nothing. Nothing changes because he has no idea you've been running this internal commentary. You're in the waiting room stewing while he's happily reading the paper, watching the news, thinking that everything's perfectly fine. The waiting room always feels easier in the short term. Yeah, it feels like keeping the peace. But in the long term, it's like buying a timeshare in resentment. You're paying for it every day, and it never goes away. Let's make this simple. Standards are what you expect, right? Boundaries are what you refuse to tolerate. Standards sound like, I want kindness, I want communication, and I want thoughtfulness. Boundaries sound like, don't yell at me, don't cheat on me, and don't call me names. And both of those matter. But here's the kicker. Standards don't enforce themselves. You can't just sit back with a clipboard hoping that your partner somehow intuits all of your needs. If you want kindness, you've got to show kindness. If you want communication, communicate. You set the tone by living it out. That's how you teach somebody how to love you, by modeling what matters to you. And before you say, but Carrie, I've been modeling for years and he still doesn't get it. That's where boundaries come in. Modeling sets the standard. Speaking up enforces it. So here's my nightly routine, pretty much. Pajamas, couch groove perfectly molded to my body, and scrolling like I'm searching for the meaning of life. Spoiler, it's not in there. But do I keep looking? Of course. The difference now is I'm doing it in a mask that looks like I auditioned for a B-movie villain. B as in badass skin, obviously. It's my red light therapy mask, and honestly, it's the only part of my night I can defend. This thing has 272 LEDs. Most masks have half that. It's putting out the same energy that dermatologists use in their offices, red light and near infrared, the two wavelengths that doctors actually recommend for anti-aging. And here's the deal. Red light smooths fine lines and it boosts collagen and improves textures. And near infrared goes even deeper where collagen actually lives. Your face cream is never going to make it that far. And because it's wireless, I can scroll, grab snacks, change positions 17 times to accommodate two small animals, whatever. No cord anchoring me like a toaster. Do I look ridiculous? Absolutely. But my skin is probably looking better than it has in years, so I'll gladly look weird in private if it means looking good in public. And in case you've been thinking that your skin could use a little pick me up, you should know that I've partnered with Inia and they've given me a discount code. It's down in my description box right next to the link to their website. I'm telling you, I was looking for one of these for the longest time, but they were too expensive. This one comes along with so much more power, but a third of the price. Can't beat it. Check it out. It's in my description below. Think about it this way. If you want your grown kids to call before they drop by, you don't just sit at the window and fume every time they waltz in unannounced. No, you tell them nicely but clearly, hey, could you do me a favor and give me a call before you stop by? I love you, but I need a few minutes heads up before you pop in. That's a boundary. In relationships, the same principle applies. You can model generosity and appreciation all day long, but if he's flat out disrespectful, that's when you stop modeling and you start enforcing. Standards without boundaries are just wish lists. You've heard that phrase, be the change you want to see in the world. Well, in dating, it's be the relationship you want to be in. You want more appreciation? Start with your own appreciation. You want more playfulness? Bring some playfulness to the relationship. More curiosity? Ask more questions. You get it. Now I can hear some of you over there muttering, but why do I have to go first? Because somebody has to break the stalemate is the answer. Somebody has to show what it looks like. Waiting for the other person to guess is just doubling down on the status quo game. Think of it like hosting dinner. If you want people to feel welcome, you don't just glare at the casserole and hope it serves itself. You set the tone. You pour the wine and light the candles. You say, come on in, sit down. Same with a relationship. You demonstrate the vibe that you want. Does this mean you do all the work? No, but it does mean you're creating the blueprint. You're showing somebody, this is how I roll in relationships. And 9 times out of 10, people will rise to it if they know what it is. Let me give you a real world version. You want more playfulness, right? You could sit back and think, gosh, he never plans anything fun. Or you could plan a goofy little date night, like trying pickleball or playing trivia at the local bar, or even just cooking a new recipe together and seeing who messes it up worse. They're parts of the job. Suddenly, you've set the tone. He sees what fun looks like to you. And he's got a model to follow. It's not about doing all the work. It's about giving the relationship that blueprint. Here's the hard truth. If you stay silent, the status quo wins. Always. Your little sighs, not communication. That little pause before answering, also not communication. Unless your partner moonlights as a psychic, none of that counts. If you never bring it up, you're basically signing a lifetime contract for things to stay exactly the same. The rock in your shoe will stay in your shoe. And over time, that tiny little rock is going to feel like a boulder. Want things to change? Use your words like a big girl or boy. Sooner, not later. I'll give you a small but common one. Money. Maybe he or she always leaves the bill on the table for you to handle it. And you're tired of feeling like the default accountant. You think, gosh, they should really know, because after all, I've been rolling my eyes hard enough to sprain an optic nerve. But they don't know. They honestly don't know. Until you say, hey, can we talk about splitting this differently? Nothing's going to change. And by the way, saying something isn't the same as starting World War III. You don't have to slam your hand on the table and shout, I'm not your mother or father. I'm not paying your way. You can say it lightly, even playfully, but clearly. Silence costs more than a 5-minute conversation ever will. Story time from me. This one's a personal one. From the early days of my relationship years ago, right? We'd been living together for maybe a year when I noticed something. Every single time I got up to grab a drink from the kitchen, I'd say, hey, do you want something while I'm up? Every single time. And every single time he got up, silence. Now, it sounds small, right? But to me, it screamed, wow, he is just not thinking of me. I mean, how do you not consider the person sitting right next to you on the sofa? But instead of saying anything, I let it simmer for months. maybe almost a year. Until one night I finally snapped in the gentlest way possible. I walked back in with 2 drinks, one for me, one for him, and I said, "Hey, have you ever noticed that every time I get up, I ask if you want something too? But you never ask when you go to the kitchen." And he looked at me, honestly shocked, and he said, "No, I never even thought about it." And here's the kicker. From that night on, he never went to the kitchen without asking me ever again. Not once. All it took was one conversation. And that's when it hit me. What's obvious to me isn't obvious to everybody else. This wasn't malice. It wasn't selfishness. It wasn't he doesn't care about me. It was literally just a blind spot. In his family, nobody modeled that kind of small thoughtfulness. In past relationships, nobody pointed it out to him. So how would he know? The moment I said something, though, he got it. He adjusted. And honestly, it didn't even feel like effort to him. It was just, oh, okay, done. Sometimes people aren't inconsiderate. They're just unaware. And they can't change what they don't know. So here's your challenge. Stop playing the game that you don't want to be playing. Don't accept the status quo just because it feels easier in the moment. No, don't keep score in silence and simmer. Don't resent somebody for failing a test that they don't even know they're taking. Model the behavior you want and speak up when something matters. Give your partner the chance to rise to your standards. Most of the time they will. And when they do, the relationship you build together will feel a whole lot better than the one you get by just shrugging your shoulders and saying, "I guess this is my life now." All right, I hope you found that interesting or helpful. If you did, you might enjoy this episode here. And hey, before you go, please, could you give my little mama here the thumbs up? Because she's convinced that that's her performance review. I don't know where she got that. And don't forget to subscribe. That way, the next time we talk about the little games relationships play, you'll be in on it from the start. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. And until next time, have a good one.